Welcome to this session about upgrading your formative assessments. In this session, we're going to do two things. We're going to review the purpose of formative assessments. Always good to review what they are and why we give them and how we can use the data to help our kids. We're also going to learn about these three online formative assessment tools: Formative, Go Soapbox, and For All Rubrics. Now, the reason this session is called Upgrading Your Formative Assessments is because of those two words on the slide: immediate feedback. The online component gives you and your students immediate feedback so they know what they're doing wrong at the time they're doing it, so we can adjust our instruction. And that's what makes them powerful. So now let's jump into our review of formative assessments. Let's talk about what they are and why we use them. So remember that formative assessments are aligned to learning targets that are deconstructed from standards. And formative assessments, just like any assessment, will measure student learning, but formative assessments do that while students are in the process of learning, because you're trying to gauge how well students are mastering learning targets. The data we get from a formative assessment as teachers, that's going to help us adjust or differentiate our instruction based on that data. Now, best practice for formative assessments, believe it or not, is that they're typically ungraded because you want students to focus on the feedback rather than the score. Again, it's more of a progress check for you and for your students to see how far away they are from mastery, or if they have reached mastery. Now, please note that the tools we're going to show you in this video do allow you to give scores for assignments and assessments that you put in them. However, remember, the point of the formative assessment is for students to focus on the feedback and then fix their understanding rather than focus solely on a score. So now that we've reviewed what formative assessments are and why we use them, we are now ready to go into our online formative assessment parade of tools. So we're first going to go take a look at Formative, then Go Soapbox, and then For All Rubrics. Our first tool that we're going to take a look at, Formative, I think is pretty aptly named for a video on formative assessments. So there's the website for you, goformative.com. And let's overview some main features before I take you on a cruise through this tool. So in Formative, you can build live assignments, assessments, and homework, and it displays student work as it happens for you, so you can give instant feedback to students. Again, purpose of formative assessments is to give them feedback to figure out where they're going wrong so they can fix it at the time. Very cool feature of Formative is you can upload any PDF or document and make it an assignment. You can create your own classes in there and track student growth over time, and we all know these days how important student growth is. And the last thing that it does that's pretty awesome is that it integrates with Google Classroom. So if you post an assignment in Formative, it could post it automatically for you in Google Classroom. So those are the main features. Let's take a walkthrough. Let's take a look at what Formative looks like on the web, so you can find out if you'd like to use this in your classroom. So I'm at the Formative website, goformative.com, and it gives a nice overview of some of the features. If you look here, how does it work? You can, again, build live assignments. So in other words, you can create your own assignments. They're showing you in the little video right there. Type your question, enter the answer. So that's kind of cool. Build your own assessments in there. Or you can upload and transform any PDF or document. So if you show, the video there is showing you it uploaded a PDF. And then you'll click on the image right there where to insert your questions, and then you can simply add your questions. It's very simple, very nice interface for that. And again, you can assign in seconds. So you can assign it to whatever class that you have. And it does integrate with Google Classroom, so you can post it to Google Classroom. They don't actually have to come to Formative to find the assignment in the first place. And you can act on live responses. They will alert you to students that may need interventions or may need immediate feedback to correct anything that's going wrong. And this is really cool. You can track student growth over time. So you can see all their assignments, what they got. So you can see, are they progressing towards mastery? Are they not? And do we need to do some more intervention with those students? So again, easily integrate the tools you need: Google integration and Google Classroom integration. So that's a nice overview of Formative and all its features. So take a look, think about it. Would you like to use this with your students or not? Right now, we're going to move on to the next tool. Let's talk about our next tool, Go Soapbox. The website is www.gosoapbox.com, and that website URL actually takes you to an informational page. If you are going to sign in to the site, or if your students want to join an event, and an event is what they call a formative assessment in Go Soapbox. If your students want to join an event or you want to sign in, you go to app.gosoapbox.com. So let's talk about the main features of Go Soapbox. The first main feature is that it's got a goofy name, but people, I don't name them, I just talk about them. The next main feature is that it's basically a web-based clicker tool, but you can assign events outside of class time. So you can actually have students go in and answer questions, quizzes, polls, discussions outside of class. There are free and paid versions. The free version allows classes up to 30 students at one time. But students don't need to create accounts. If they're going to answer one of the formative assessments that you make in Go Soapbox, then they just need an event access code. Like I mentioned before, you can create multiple choice short answer quizzes, polls, and discussions. But one feature that I really like about Go Soapbox is they have something called a confusion meter that allows students to tell you if they're confused when they answer your question, which I like. It gives you a little insight into kind of what they were thinking when they were answering the question. So now that we've gone over the main features of Go Soapbox, let's go for a tour. So here we are at Go Soapbox. Let's take a peek inside. Like I said before, if you go to gosoapbox.com, it's going to take you to an informational page. To actually get to the sign-in page, or where students would click to join events or formative assessments that you make here, they would click this button. And then if students have an access code, this is where they would put it in and then click Join Now, but we're not going to do that. We're going to sign in. And here are my events. And again, all your events are all the assessments that you have. So I'm going to click on testing this sucker because that's what I was doing a couple weeks ago, was testing the sucker out. So if you look, here's my event. I've got some quizzes, or I've got a quiz, I've got a poll, and I've got a discussion. So those are the three basic things you can make in Go Soapbox. We can take a peek at what the quiz page looks like. So you can see I have a fake quiz up here, and one person has taken it. You can change the details, you can download your data, reset all the results, so if you want to reuse the quiz, or you can just delete it completely. And then below that, you'll see all your questions. Okay? So again, you can do multiple choice, you can do short answer here, so your basic quizzes can be made in Go Soapbox. So I'm going to go back to my event. So there's your quiz. You can also do a poll. I love polls as formative assessments. My question was, is this poll awesome? And as you can see, they told me, don't you have anything better to do? Well, no, as a matter of fact, I don't. So polls are pretty cool. You can do a quick formative check with a poll. You can also create a discussion. I haven't created one, so let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So you put in a question, you do a description, and then you can determine the audience visibility. Can replies be visible to other students, or can't they? And then you create that. So that's basically Go Soapbox, except one thing I want to mention here, and I mentioned it in the main features. See this confused box up here? When students go in and answer your quiz questions or your poll questions, they can actually select, was I confused or not when I was answering this question? I think this is a great kind of student self-reporting way to figure out what were they thinking when they were actually taking your quiz or your poll. Okay, so a neat feature of Go Soapbox. I really wish that feature was in other tools as well. So that's Go Soapbox, and right now we're going to move on to our next formative assessment tool. So here we are at our last formative assessment tool, For All Rubrics. I bet you can guess what you make in this site. The website is forallrubrics.com, and again, the main feature is you get to create your own rubrics. Surprise! But you can also create checklists. You can also use rubrics and checklists that are made for you in their library. Specifically, they have problem-based learning checklists, and they also have Common Core skills checklists available for you to use. You can create badges for students, which students love badges. They love to collect them. And you have student accounts. They can get an account, and students can do peer review and self-assessment with rubrics, which I think is fantastic. You do have classroom and student standards-based reports that can track data over time. So again, it's about growth. Growth is all important these days. So those are the main features of For All Rubrics. Let's take a look at what this looks like on the inside. So here we are at For All Rubrics. This is the landing page. What we want to do is we want to log in, or I want to log in. If you want to log in eventually, after you see all the cool stuff in here, you're going to want to sign up first. Then you can log in. So let's log in, and I'm going to use my Google account because I am extremely password lazy. So here we are inside For All Rubrics. And I want to point out first that there are some tutorials here that if you're interested in this, you can check out once you create an account. But what I want to do is quickly go through some of the tabs. The first thing I want to go through is design. This is where you design a couple things. You can design a badge, you can design a checklist, you can design a sample rubric, and then this is obviously another rubric that I completely made up. So here is where you click Create to create your own, or you can import rubrics that you already have. Okay. So that's where you create them, and what they do when you create, by the way, it says, how would you like to score? Rubric, checklist, basic badge. If you click a rubric, it's going to pop up with this generic rubric, and then you can actually just edit the text right in there. So pretty cool. Okay. Let's go back to design, though. Notice that it automatically saved that for me. Okay. So design is where you want to create rubrics or import rubrics. If you go to my class, you can actually select any of those rubrics that you made, or badges or checklists. You can see how your students have done on them, or you can score them on whatever rubric or checklist you made or badge. I'm going to flip down to this one, the assignment that is completely made up. And I have a couple kids in my class. I have a very small class of 5. And what you do here is you can see your assessment results. You can see I've got some reteaching to do with some of these guys, and some of these guys need some enrichment. So here is where you can see the results, but you can also score them on a rubric. So Thomas Morgan, let's say I want to come back in and he's done a reassessment for me. He redid this assignment, whatever it might be, and I want to rescore him. So I think he did much better. By the way, this is just that generic template I showed you earlier. So then I will click Done. And notice now, you did a little better, 65%. So here's where you'd come in and score, and then you can see your student results. Okay. Now I showed you where you can design your own rubrics and checklists and badges, but they also have this cool rubric library. They have what they call Creative Commons rubrics. These are just rubrics that users of For All Rubrics have shared with the entire community that you can steal. They have fantastic Common Core score sheets. If you are interested in PBL, problem or project-based learning, that's what Buck Institute for Education is all about. So they have some nice rubrics for you if you want to get started. And this one is actually a Spanish teacher who apparently wrote a lot of rubrics for Spanish. So hey, Spanish teachers, we have something for you here. Okay? So they have a nice library, but the coolest thing is you can analyze your assessment results. Look at all these reports. You can browse your results, weekly progress, grading report, custom standards, again, class item analysis, pre and post. There's lots of different options here. What I love about this is generally when you have rubrics, it's really hard to get your data all in one place and then be able to analyze it. So this site actually allows you to do that, which I think is pretty cool. So that's For All Rubrics. What we're going to move on to right now is the activity for this station. So we've gone over 3 awesome formative assessment tools in this session. We've gone over Formative, Go Soapbox, and For All Rubrics. On the table that you are sitting at, there should be a 1-page activity. All you have to do is read the directions, fill out the activity, and show it to the station supervisor when you're finished. And that station supervisor will stamp your agenda and give you an evaluation and tell you to have a fantastic rest of your day. So again, I want to thank you right now for your participation, and really, have a great rest of your day.